Happy 420. Yo, peace, Abargani, Islam, Salah, Hetepu, Rahubat, Gino Lako Ninani, Chief Noble Bandele in the building. Yo, happy 420 to all of y'all that get down, and happy Ishstar, if you know what I'm saying, to y'all today. Today we're gonna have a kind of different approach to things. We're gonna talk about religious exemptions, okay? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you through other people, through my TikTok editorials, right? We're gonna get into it. But I got a little mix of everything today. All right. This is the Ishstar edition, right? So before we get into all that, check out this ad.
Power in the melanin, she glows. Unified like Malcolm when we close. Pushing through the struggle, yeah, we chose. Solid as a rock, I love it grows. Speaking wisdom just like Dr. Umar knows. Dripping culture in our stance, it shows. On the front lines where that passion roars. Building empires, Kevin Samuels goals. Sitting at the table, he proposed. Melanated love, in America it flows.
Yo, and y'all go check that book out. It's on Amazon and it's also on indigenous.moors.org, all right? So like I said, today we're going to get into understanding religious exemption, right? But we're going to really get to the real understanding, like how to really use it in your day-to-day life. Because so many people, only thing they think about is, oh, religious exemption for my child vaccination or vaccinations and this and that. The religious exemption is much more than that, right? But like I said, we're going to get into that tonight. We're going to get into that. All right. Before we get into that, y'all please like this video and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't, right? And please share this video, all right? So let's get into this tonight, right? Let's get into it. The first video we're going to be dealing with, before we get into this, because this is the Ishstar edition, right? It wouldn't be right for y'all to get a good understanding of what it is, right? So the 12 disciples. Let's get into it.
Hence why Jesus always has a son pictured behind him.
Let's get into it.
And this is why you have the 4 stories of the crucifixion.
Let me go back.
Did you know that if you celebrate Easter this weekend, you're actually participating in a pagan ritual? Easter is actually paying homage to the Babylonian goddess Ishtar, who was the goddess of reproduction and fertility. And if Good Friday is in commemoration of the crucifixion of Christ and he raises from the grave on Sunday
I thought I was
morning,
showing it. Let me show it.
It
ain't showing my video.
See, religion has you so confused that you don't know which way is up and which way.
Let's go back. I thought I was playing. Y'all hold on. Hold on. I'm having technical difficulty for some reason. It ain't acting right. Let me go back in here and share it. All right. Let's go back. Let's go back and see what's cracking. All right. Y'all should see that, right? All right. Now we good. All right. Let's get it. All right. Apologies. We gonna get it together. Like I said, this is the intro.
Did you know that if you celebrate Easter this weekend, you're actually participating in a pagan ritual? Easter is actually paying homage to the Babylonian goddess Ishtar, who was the goddess of reproduction and fertility. And if Good Friday is in commemoration of the crucifixion of Christ and he raises from the grave on Sunday morning, that's not 3 days and 3 nights. See, religion has you so confused that you don't know which way is up and which way is down. And the reason why the date of Easter always changes is because it's 1 week after the first full moon after the spring equinox. So understand, this is all allegory. So is this, and this, and this. These stories are all allegory of the sun traveling through the 12 zodiac signs or the 12 disciples. Hence why Jesus always has a sun pictured behind him. And this is why you have the 4 stories of the crucifixion of Christ: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. the 4 seasons. So Easter is nothing but a celebratory, allegorical story of the rebirth of the new year. This is the astrological new year. And the story of Christ being crucified is all allegory of the Son of God passing through the crux or the cross constellation on December 21st for the winter solstice. The ancients would say that the sun would die for those 3 days because those were the 3 shortest days of the year. At the winter solstice, the sun would then make its way upwards towards the northern hemisphere, symbolizing longer and warmer days. And on December 25th, this was symbolized as the rebirth of the sun. If mainstream propagandic religion never really sat right with you and you wanted to do a deeper dive but didn't know where to start, I highly recommend this book. If you want to check it out, I'll leave an orange link below where I got mine.
All right. So check this. We wanted to get it started off right. We wanted to get the energy set right, being that this is, Ishstar. We wanted to get the proper perspective. All right. So check. But we're going to get into what we really talking about today, right? We really going to get into it. Like I said, I want y'all to understand religious exemptions. This is for anybody who's watching or going to watch that are trying to understand sovereignty or understand how to maneuver and move. This right here is your way of understanding how to do that without like coming off sounding like a sovereign citizen. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. We got to do something different. So, all right, I'm going to share this video right here. Let's get into this. We about to get into this.
But what would you say, like, what is like the most common mistake you see over and over again that people are probably making when it comes to just requesting a religious exemption for this time that we're in?
The biggest mistakes that people are making with their religious exemption is they are talking about the science and the medicine, and they are not talking about just their religious views. So it's extremely important. That's number one, is to not talk about all of the side effects, to not talk about the all of the data, do not talk about Bill Gates, do not talk about the World Economic Forum, don't talk about the Great Reset. Don't talk about anything other than your sincerely held religious beliefs. The law is very clear. It's called.
Yo, let me stop it real quick. This is really important because a lot of times, I get people calling and they be talking about the conspiracies and the things of that nature. And when you get to talking like that in an establishment, they're going to label you something kooky or sovereign citizen, like type that stuff. So really, this is important for y'all to understand, is to focus on your religious exemption, your religious reasons why. All right, now check. I'm gonna keep it going.
It's called Title VII, and there are only 2 simple things that need to happen. Number one is you notify your employer of the conflict between their policy and your beliefs, and you put them on notice in a letter. Now, Joel, some people have been.
All right, I know I'm gonna let her play out, but I gotta just include it. So what you see she's talking about is having like your employer. So this is something that people don't think about. Like, how do I use my religious exemptions to get a job or to work a job, right? Or to continue working a job using my religious exemptions. All right, so check.
Been very vocal saying, I don't believe in these exemptions. We have rights. We shouldn't have to ask for permission. You're not asking for permission. You actually are notifying them of your rights. So I agree with you. You are notifying your employer of your rights. That's no different than somebody coming up and maybe, a stranger or whatever coming up, putting their hands on you. You're like, whoa, hang on a second. Back off. You're notifying them of your limits. Are you just going to let people assault you? No. And This is an assault. So you notify them that you have a right not to be assaulted. And I think the other thing that trips people up is the word religion. And they don't like the word religion. I don't really like the word religion either. Yeah. I like the word faith. I like the word, I don't even like the word belief. It's a knowing. I know I'm created by God. I know that God has a purpose for my life. It's not a hope or a belief. It's a knowledge. So the law uses the word religion. That's all. But it also says it can be your moral or ethical beliefs. So let's not get all wrapped up in that. Some people that have made headlines, that have walked off the job, they never invoked their exemption. They just said, I'm not going to do it and you can't make me. Well, I guess that's true, but that would be like you saying, I'm not showing up at work tomorrow and you can't make me. Yeah, but you're required to show up at work and you're required to notify your employer.
This is very important. The way to notify the workplace. A lot of people don't have work ethics and don't understand. Like if you're gonna be late to work, you normally let them know in advance. If you're gonna not come in, you're letting them know that you're not gonna be there. And a lot of times you give notice as early as you can so that you can make sure that they know. So in the same regard, whatever your religious belief, you need to put it on record with your job, okay, with your employer. All right, very important.
Employer of your exemption. So let's not get bent out of shape and use this as a way to belittle or demean those who are actually using a law and a mechanism that is in place exactly for this reason. So it's no different than if you showed up at work and you said, or you showed up at work with a broken leg and you're going to say, oh, I got.
All right. She got a second part to that. We're going to have to check that second part out. But I just want you to get an understanding of how, religious exemptions will work on multiple playing fields. It's not just, like I said, it's not just about a religious exemption for, immunization shots, which I understand that's a big deal, especially, past COVID. But our religious rights are so protected in the amendments that we don't really use them. And a lot of times the churches we go to, the temples, they're not really pushing the boundary or pushing on religion as your right. Okay. So, but just go deeper, y'all. Just stay with me, y'all. Stay with me. It's going to get a little deeper because we're going to understand how the exemptions work on other levels of the church, how a church really should be functioning for the community. All right. And that's what we do here at the Moorish Temple New Kemet. All right. So we're going to keep it going. All right. We're going to keep it going. This video right here is going to show you a little bit more. All right. So let's get into it.
What do you do?
I do PMAs for companies.
No, I don't even know what that means, so you don't have to say that. Because I know it's somebody else.
Private membership associations.
Okay,
so I create tax exempt entities. So all these LLCs and all these structures that people have, they really don't need. They can operate their business under the church because people don't understand what the definition of church is because they think four walls and minister, when actually it's a business. And the IRS doesn't define church, and people don't know that.
That's fire.
They can't define church because it would be a violation of their First Amendment rights. So I took years to study the IRS and got myself out of IRS debt and student loans.
That's fire.
That's beautiful. What I do.
Yo, do you understand what I am saying now? How the church is supposed to operate in our lives. How our religious beliefs are supposed to protect us, not just by the spiritual means, which is, one aspect of it, but from the legal side. The protections that we have from a legal side, we're not using them like we should. Okay. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to keep it like that, but we keeping it going. Y'all please like this video, subscribe. We're going to keep it going. All right. We're going to keep it going.
The preacher.
Hold on. We're going to keep it going.
I'm glad to be here. Hope you are too. I want to talk about using a religious exemption or tax exemption type deal under the religious codes and freedoms that are given to religious organizations, even the smallest of them, to not pay taxes, no income tax. And there's even ways to get a tax exemption as an employee if you're a minister of the church. It doesn't have to be a real church. I'm going to give you a video that you probably should watch. My pug is going crazy. If you go and look up John Oliver and look up Church of Perpetual Exemption, he created a church just to show how easy it is to become tax exempt. And then your income is not taxed. You let the church pay for everything. With a church, you can let it buy your home or your car or many other things. And so it can pay the bills of the preacher and the assistant pastor and whatever else. The reason I bring this up, I was doing a live teaching vending and street food vending, and we were talking about taxes and all that stuff. And I mentioned a guy that did this, and he went all the way with it. So he created his own little church, and he met the guidelines the IRS requires for a 5. If you do that, you don't have to do the 501c3. So you're eliminated from that, from having to do that. Now, I will tell you this, before I go into this much deeper, I am not an accountant. I'm not a bookkeeper. I am not giving legal or tax advice.
Y'all know what he's talking about when you don't have to get a 501c3. If y'all don't, if y'all know, y'all know. If y'all know, put it in there. Put it in the comments. If y'all know what the alternative is to a 501c3. How many of y'all even know what the 501c3 is? Okay. This is how the game going. All right. But let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
Advice. I'm not a lawyer. I'm telling you that you can do a short Google and find the right professional who can help you create, or you can just do the research yourself and create your own religious organization and be tax-free. Now, how is this moral? Okay, well, that depends on what your definition of moral is. I have never done this, but many churches and religious organizations use this to their benefit. It's why huge churches that are out there actually have businesses. One of the largest organizations in America owns more land than the state in some states. So in Missouri and Florida, they own more land than the state. There's one that owns malls and dairy farms and all kinds of stuff. They avoid taxes and they create a new income with these little loopholes because America is all about religion and giving them all this right. They figured out how to make a bunch of money. Anyone can do it. You can be the church. You can be the church of the quarter-pound hot dog. There's a church of the flying spaghetti monster. There's so many of these churches that are not true churches, but they meet the definition of a religious organization. You can worship whatever you want. I can worship a can of beer, and I can name the church after the beer if I want. So there's many loopholes. And the reason I'm answering this is I got a bunch of questions in the comments when I mentioned this, wanting to know more about it. So what I'd tell you to do is go to the irs.gov and just type in the search box, religious organization or tax exempt church or something like that. And you will find out that you don't even have to apply for the 501c, which most nonprofits have to do. There's so many little loopholes that they use for these religious organizations to keep them from having to pay taxes, but anyone can do it. So you can too. John Oliver, Church of Perpetual Exemption. Look up what you can do as a pastor or an assistant pastor, or your kids that are helping you, your adult kids are helping you with your business. And now they can apply for something the IRS calls, it's a form 4361 that exempts you as the church, the pastor, from paying personal taxes. And it's why some of these big preachers and evangelists have golden toilet seats and, 14 airplanes and houses all over the globe, is no taxes. So 30-40% of taxes that we're paying, they ain't.
Y'all just think if we was putting this together like this as a group, how we would not have to pay taxes as a group. Come on. Let's go.
Paying. It's an opportunity for some. It depends on where you fall with it. I don't know that it's right or wrong. It's probably true if I was talking to somebody else and they said, well, if everybody did it, they'd probably get rid of that exemption. And they'd have to rewrite tax codes. Well, they probably need to rewrite tax codes because they're screwy to begin with. I'm not going to get into a political discussion. I'm not even going to take the bait if you comment about a political thing, but I just want you to know that there are ways that you can run a business through a church legally, 100% above board, and you be tax exempt, even though you don't have a 501c3. If you meet the requirements, they just call you tax exempt, just like somebody who did all the paperwork. You don't have to even do the paperwork. So anyway, I hope that helps you out. I hope that inspires you in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And I hope you have a wonderful day. I love you. I'll talk to you soon.
Yo, I just want y'all to take that in. The Albion. See, this is what I'm saying. The ability of religion in our lives should be used outside of just going in and out of church, going in and out of our temple. As Moors, we're going in the temple. We're getting the word. We're receiving information for our soul, but a lot of times we're not getting the same protection that we could outside of the temple, if that makes sense to you guys. So this is what we're doing. We're bringing this back. We're bringing that religious exemption back into the full of understanding, because that is what protects us. Our culture is everything is under religion. Check D. But I'm not gonna keep talking. I'm gonna let them talk for you. You understand what I'm saying? So my next video, we're gonna talk about these immunizations, right? Let's get into that. Hold on. Let's get into this. All right, let's get into it. So let me share.
Good morning. Sorry, I meant to do this yesterday. So for me, I was in Florida, and this was also 13 years ago. So my personal experience was right after he was born, I just went down to, I don't know what it was like the county office. And all I said was, I need a religious exemption for my son. We're not doing vaccinations. And they had a form that I signed, and that was just what I had to show for anything that we did. Also, he went to a private preschool, and it was never an issue. He went to public school up until the very beginning of 3rd grade, and I never had any issues. I just would submit that form with like his intake papers to go to school. So even though he's homeschooled now, I do have some experience with him being in a public school, and it was never an issue. You said you were in Illinois, so I looked up the website, and I have 2 things that you can look at. So luckily you are in one of the states that currently is still allowing religious exemption. And it does say like the religious objection may be personal and need not be directed by the tenets of an established religious organization. So that's kind of your little loophole. There's also, and on this website, there's also the instructions for completing the certificate of religious exemption. So if you have this document, and you may have to find a doctor that's willing to sign it, and you may have to go to several places until you find someone who is willing to sign it. But once you have this paper, all you have to do is submit it to the school when you file all your other like intake forms. The website that I found that information on is statepolicies.nasbe.org. I would recommend doing it sooner than later, even if your kids aren't school age, just in case policies change, and like no promises that you'll still get to keep your exemption. But I think that there's a chance you would be grandfathered into the laws that you were abiding by prior to the policies changing. Hopefully this answers your questions, but if you have any more, let me know.
All right. So, we did have to talk about exemptions. If y'all do know anything about that, a lot of people have problems, I would say. Okay, let me just start like that. A lot of people have problems with their children, getting into school because they weren't vaccinated. And really all you do need a lot of times is a religious exemption from vaccination. It's just like religious exemption from your child eating certain foods in school. Okay. And the key to these things, really, like, people don't really understand, is having a religious organization. So like with the previous video, the brother was saying about creating your own, but really, if we had as a community, like we used to have the church, but it doesn't have to be a church as in the Christian, but as a religious organization that is standing for everything, if you understand what I'm saying. So I'm just trying to get y'all to understand the power and the protection of religion. So with that being said, we're going to shift to just a tad bit, right? And I want you to look at when you get married. People don't really understand that when they get married, even if you get married in the church, it's really not a religious ceremony. Okay, you get married with the preacher, the minister, whatever you call him. He could be doing the marriage in a church or a mosque or whatever, temple, but it's still not religious because all of these ministers sign off to the state and get a minister license, and now they are under the law to have to perform solemnization under the state. So when you look it up, it's not even about the state. I mean, it's not even about religion. It's about the state. The state controls the marriage. So when you're talking about exemptions, marriage exemptions, how they get married religiously and be exempt from the state. Okay, so setting it up. So let's look at this video, right? Look at this video.
State going to teach you something they definitely don't want you to know about. When two people get married, you receive a marriage license, right? And it's issued by the state. But did you know that every marriage license issued in the United States comes with a blueprint? And the blueprint is set up just like this. It's in a triangular formation. At the top, you got the state. At the bottom corner, you have the wife. At the bottom corner, you have the husband. Now notice the state to the husband has a broken line. A broken line in a blueprint means it bears no weight. Now you'll notice the line drawn from the husband to the wife. Broken line. Has no authority, bears no weight. But the line drawn from the state to the wife, solid, unbroken line. It means that the state is the husband to the wife. And the husband is actually just a third wheel. Now you can
look, and I want you to think about when a child is born, they used what again? They used the woman to become the informant to the state. So in the same regards, getting married through the state, your wife is subject to the state, and you're not necessarily, because of her, you're connected to the state. Okay, she's the key component, with the transaction. All right,
you can maybe start to make sense as to why typically so many men are getting obliterated in family court, because Big Daddy State is protecting its wife. And they laugh all the way to the bank. But there's another method you can do if you still want to get married. When you get married, you document your name and your wife's name and the witnesses in the Bible. You record your names inside the cover of the Bible. Then you take the Bible, you go to a judge, legally will document, and you are now legally married. And you remove the state completely. This is how you...
Yo. Okay. So, look, I want y'all to take that in. Go back and watch some of our older videos. We got a lot of videos on marriage, and they talk a lot about this. This just simplified it. But, being married, the way to get married, there's an exempt way through religion. So religion and standing on your religious principles, right? And using those principles to pretty much do everything that you can in society through your religious exempts. Okay, that gives you your special class, if you will. That class that's you got your state rights, you got your people who are doing sovereign, but not even but the people who are sovereign citizens, a lot of times they are Christian, right? And they use the Bible and these things of that nature a lot of times, right? So they are using those things. So, a lot of us melanated people who are like getting away from using the term religion, I don't want you guys to look at religion like it's the bad. I want you to be able to use religion for your benefit, like these people are showing us how to do. And like I said, we're doing this at the temple. These are the things that's going on at the Moorish Temple in NewKemit. So, I'm just letting y'all know. So but I ain't done. I'm not done with y'all yet. Now, the last video we're going to get into, this is part of what we also teach, the legal side of things, right? So not just from First Amendment and religious purposes, but we also teach you based off of, what's the rules of the court, how to proceed in court, how to actually articulate these things in a courtroom so that you don't come off like you're crazy, right? But it's the legal understanding of it as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show this video, and this is how we're going to shut it out for the day.
Motion to dismiss and memorandum of law on the right to travel. Lack of mens rea, constitutional deficiency, and unlawful conversion of the right to travel. In the insert court name, Court of Insert County, Florida. Your name, appearing in propria persona and sui juris, respectfully moves this court to dismiss the information or citation in this matter. This motion is based on lack of criminal intent, also known as mens rea, constitutional violations concerning the unalienable right to travel, misapplication of commercial statutes to a private non-commercial natural person, and the void nature of any alleged license contract created through coercion, fraud, or mistake. Section 1. Statement of the issue. The question is this: can the state lawfully prosecute a private individual, peacefully traveling in their own capacity, under statutes that regulate commercial drivers and transportation, when that individual sincerely believed they were exercising a protected constitutional right? Since I am relying on my good faith legal research, the opinion of the United States Supreme Court, and multiple binding and persuasive court rulings, I am immune from prosecution due to a lack of willfulness. The state cannot meet its burden to prove criminal intent. Section 2, Memorandum of Law. A right to travel is a constitutional right. The U.S. Supreme Court has repeatedly recognized that the right to travel is fundamental and unalienable. Kent v. Dulles, 357 U.S. 116, 1958. The right to travel is part of the liberty of which the citizen cannot be deprived without due process of law. Shapiro v. Thompson, 394 U.S. 618, 1969. The constitutional right to travel from one state to another is firmly embedded in our jurisprudence. Crandall v. Nevada, 73 U.S. 35, 1867. The state may not impose burdens or taxes on movement across state lines. Sands v. Roe, 526 U.S. 489, 1999. The right to travel includes entering, leaving, and residing freely in any state. Thompson v. Smith, 154 S.E. 579 Virginia, 1930. The right of the citizen to travel upon the public highways is not a mere privilege, but a common right. Murdoch v. Pennsylvania, 319 U.S. 105, 1943. A state may not impose a charge for the enjoyment of a right granted by the federal Constitution. Papa Christou v. City of Jacksonville, 405 U.S. 156, 1972. Vague or overreaching statutes that punish free movement violate due process. B. Lack of criminal intent, mens rea. To convict under criminal law, the state must prove intent. Morissette v. United States, 342 U.S. 246, 1952. A wrongful act does not make a criminal unless the mind is also guilty. United States v. Excitement Video, 513 U.S. 64, 1994. Intent is presumed required even if a statute is silent on it. Ciccone v. State, 684 So, 2nd 736 Florida, 1996. Florida requires the state to prove intent unless a statute clearly removes it. Davis v. State, 937 So, 2nd 300 Florida 4th District Court of Appeal, 2006. Courts interpret silence on intent in favor of the accused. I have taken affirmative steps in line with my understanding of the law. Rescinding a commercial driver's license. Affixing private plates to indicate non-commercial use. Conducting extensive legal research and acting without harm or malice. Because I believed, and still believe, that I was acting lawfully, there is no willful violation. Therefore, the state cannot meet its burden to convict me of a crime that requires intent. There isn't even a victim with a real tangible injury to face. C. The public highway is a right, not a privilege. The courts have long held that the use of the highways in a private, non-commercial capacity is a common right. Chicago Motor Coach v. Chicago, 169 NE 22 Illinois, 1929. Even the legislature has no power to deny a citizen the right to travel upon the highway by the ordinary conveyances of the day. Hadfield v. London, 168 P. 516, Washington, 1917. The streets and highways belong to the public, and the right to use them is one of the liberties guaranteed to every citizen. State v. Armstead, 138, Son 857, Louisiana, 1932. The use of highways for travel is not a mere privilege, but a fundamental right. Barney v. Board of Railroad Commissioners, 17 P. 2nd 82, Montana, 1932. The right to travel, in the ordinary course of life and business, is a common right. Tesh Lines v. Danforth, 12. So 2nd 784, Mississippi, 1943. The right to use public roads is a valuable one, and should not be interfered with unreasonably. D. Federal and legal definitions, verbatim. Let the record reflect the following legal definitions. Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition. Driver. One employed in conducting a vehicle. This definition implies a commercial relationship. Motor vehicle. Every description of carriage or other contrivance propelled or drawn by mechanical power and used for commercial purposes on the highways in the transportation of passengers or property. Title 49, U.S. Code Section 13, 102 defines transportation. Services related to the movement of passengers or property for compensation. Title 49. U.S. Code Section 3102 defines motor vehicle. A vehicle driven or drawn by mechanical power and manufactured primarily for use on public streets, roads, and highways. But under Title 49, these definitions apply to transportation safety regulations and commerce. Because I was not transporting persons or property for hire, I'm not a driver, not engaged in transportation, and not operating a motor vehicle as defined in statutory law. E-license is not a valid contract. I did not consent to waive my rights in exchange for a license. Dybel v. Kreis, 50 NE 2nd 1000. A contract based on mutual mistake is void. Frost and Frost Trucking v. RR Commission, 271 U.S. 583. If the state converts a liberty into a privilege, the citizen may engage in the right with impunity. Boyd v. United States, 116 U.S. 616. Unconstitutional practices often begin by slight deviations. Hale v. Henkel, 201 U.S. 43. The individual may stand upon his constitutional rights. He owes nothing to the public so long as he does not trespass upon their rights. Because there was no full disclosure, no knowing waiver, and no fair agreement, the license is not binding and cannot lawfully override my rights. Section 3, Constitutional Foundations. U.S. Constitution. 5th and 14th Amendments guarantee liberty and due process. The 9th Amendment affirms that rights not listed are still retained by the people. Florida Constitution, Article 1, Section 2. All natural persons are equal before the law and have inalienable rights. Section 4, Prayer for Relief. Therefore, I respectfully ask this court to dismiss all charges based on the state's inability to prove criminal intent, its misapplication of regulatory law, and its violation of due process. In the alternative, instruct the jury on the necessity of proving willfulness and the validity of good faith belief, and grant any other relief consistent with justice, the Constitution, and the lawful rights of the people. Respectfully submitted. Your full name. Impropria persona sui juris. All rights reserved without prejudice. UCC 1-308. Date. Follow and share for more powerful content like this.
Yo, all right. So, I did say that was the last video, right? But, we got it. It's the Easter edition. So we got one more video, all right, that we're going to get into. Hopefully I can play it and it play right. You know what I mean? Let's get this video, though. I'm going to hit this one. All right, let's get it.
I'm a Moorish national, part of the original government, the Moroccan Empire, and it's signed off by a judge. This is my DB8, Amun Infinite Bay, my free national name. This is my nationality ID to let you know I have the right to travel, and it's filed.
So you live on East 167?
In the Republic, yes I do.
But the city of Cleveland, Ohio.
Correct, in the Republic.
What's the Republic?
The Republic for which it stands, with the same Pledge of Allegiance that you pledge allegiance to. The Republic. We are not in a democracy. This is a republic.
I'm gonna be honest. I really have no idea what you're talking about. So, if you explain it, dumb it down a little bit.
Okay, so the republic. There's two governments on the back of a dollar bill.
Okay.
There's the Moroccan government that people call.
I've never heard of the Moroccan government.
Okay. There's the Moroccan government that you call the Illuminati, which is the pyramid, the RCNI. And then there's the United States Corporation that's on the right side of the back of the dollar bill, which is the QV's trust of Queen Elizabeth, who you took an oath to protect the assets of their trust. My vehicle is not registered. Now we open up the next file. Wait a second. Because this where it gets African American. I'm a Moorish national, part of the original.
All right, it's playing again. But look, check dig. I just wanted to drop that jewel in there. A lot of people, I don't know what happened with that, but I mean, the brother was running down the knowledge on him, being a Moorish American. You guys got to be careful with this kind of stuff, though, because a lot of times this stuff does end up, with you getting locked up or whatever, car getting towed. But the brother was, if you're listening, y'all heard some jewels in there, right? You heard some jewels in there. So, enough being said, we're about to get up out of here, though. But before we get up out of here, I'm going to hit you with this ad. Yes. Knowledge is for the people. Get your books today on indigenousmoors.org. Your one-stop shop for indigenous needs. All right. And like I said, y'all can get all our books on indigenousmoors.org, and you can also find our books on Amazon. Okay. But just go to them and check them out. A lot of the information that we presenting has been already laid out in these books. Okay. So just wanted y'all to know we're going to keep these videos going. We're going to keep this knowledge flowing. Okay. We're going to keep bringing it. You got any questions? Y'all can hit me. I'm going to have my information in the description, but you guys can hit me on Indigenous Moors. Y'all can hit me on the numbers. Do all that. Okay. This is what we do here in New Kemet, the Temple of New Kemet, where all people can come together with their spiritual religious beliefs, right? We can all come together and be protected under our religious beliefs. All right. So with that being said, I'm out of here, y'all. Happy 420. Be responsible. Peace. Tutanana.